Throwdown Nation. It is Sunday afternoon. We are live on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter/X, Facebook, and Twitch. And this afternoon, we are throwing down with another talent who is walking the road to stardom. Coming to us from one of the true hotspots of the indie wrestling scene in Atlanta, WWA4, we have the young gun himself, Grayson Pierce. How you doing, Grayson?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. For those of you that are watching this live, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and throw them in the chat. And at the end, we'll do a short viewer Q&A session, and all questions and comments will be read and answered. And before we get going, I want to make a quick mention of a new cross-promotional partnership that I've got now with 7 Essence Tea. 7 Essence is now the official tea of the Throwdown with Matt, and several factors led to this. Two of their core values are authenticity and appreciation. Those two factors drive the heart of 7 Essence and also drive the heart of the Throwdown with Matt. On their website, they mention a quote from Matthew McConaughey where he says, "Life is a verb." And we completely agree with that. Life is meant to be lived. And don't sit back waiting for something to happen. Take action. So we'll go ahead and get started with the first and most obvious question. And that is, how long have you been wrestling, Grayson?
I just hit 2 years just the other day.
Well, congratulations. Congratulations. 2 years is it's a long time, and it'll put some miles on your body. That's for sure.
Yeah, I know. I'm starting to figure that out.
Yep. So, have you trained strictly at WWA4, or have you trained anywhere else as well? Because I know the main trainer there is AR Fox. Have you trained mostly under him, or have you been with some other people?
Uh, I've trained mostly under Fox. I've dipped into other places like ECW before and trained with them for a couple days. And I trained with Jimmy Yang Wang once or
Mhm.
twice. But other than that, mainly Fox.
Got you. Got you. Like I said before we went live, I've watched a few of your matches just in preparation for this, and I've got to say I like your variation on the curb stomp. It's almost kind of a walking curb stomp. I really like that because it's just something kind of different. Where did that come from? How did that come about?
So the skull piercers, I call it, is it's a variation of the curb stomp where I step off their butt and I double stomp the back of their head, and guys always freak out when I'm like, hey, this is my finisher. But I actually got it from a guy named Fuego del Sol.
Oh yeah.
Yep, he's an AW, and he used it as like his, not his finisher. He used it as like his signature move. So if he's not gonna win matches with it, I will. Um, and I also know Blake Christian does the move too. So it's not like a new move, but it's just something not a lot of people do.
Right. Right. Speed round. Matt Hardy.
Version 1.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, have you been a fan of this stuff pretty much all of your life? And if so, what is your earliest memory, your earliest wrestling related memory?
Um, so I haven't been a wrestling fan my whole life. I would say I found it a little better than most kids. Most kids find it in, like, elementary school, and they're infatuated with it. Well, I found it like when I was like 12, when I was in like middle school, so it like wasn't cool anymore. Um,
Yeah.
and everyone was like, "Oh, it's fake" and all this stuff. But I was a very much like closeted wrestling fan. Um, but and then like as I got older, like I started to enjoy it more and more. But my earliest wrestling uh like memory was probably my first. It was I was at my dad's house and there wasn't much to do, but there was an Xbox and I asked my dad if he could go buy some games for me, and he came back with a bunch of games and one of them was WWE 2K14, and I was like, I have no idea what this was. And I popped it in and I didn't know who any of the people were. I didn't know what this game was, but I remember in that game there was 30 years of WrestleMania. You played from WrestleMania 1, Andre the Giant versus Big John Studd, all the way up until WrestleMania 29, because 30 hadn't happened yet, uh,
Right.
where it was like John Cena versus The Rock. So that's where I learned all my knowledge from. I went through, HBK and Razor Ramon. I went through uh, John Cena, Shawn Michaels. I went through Eddie Guerrero and all this stuff, and I just fell in love with it. Um, and I had a friend who played it with me. He kind of was like, "Oh, it's fake," and stopped doing it. But I still go back and play that game today. So I mean, that's probably my earliest memory.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Like you, I found it later than a lot of people as well. I was around 11. I was a kid in Florida, and I just turned 55 a couple of months ago, so I've been following this stuff for 40 some odd years. I grew up in the territory days. Earliest memories was Florida Championship Wrestling. At the time, a guy named Gordon Soley was the commentator,
Yep.
and my earliest feud that I remember was Dusty Rhodes and Kevin Sullivan.
Yep.
Uh, so um, and like I said, it's been fun following this stuff for as long as I have. I've seen a lot in 40 years. Seen the Monday Night Wars start to finish, the rise and fall of ECW, all that good stuff. And I've said this on a lot of these, but I mean, really, right now is actually one of the most exciting times to be a fan that I can remember. I mean, there's just so much good stuff happening in the business.
Oh yeah. I mean, between indie wrestling, you got Raw, SmackDown, we got AEW. There's just
Yeah,
so much wrestling. Um, I'm glad that wrestling's making a comeback because I missed the rise and fall of ECW. I missed the Monday Night Wars. I missed all like the glory days of wrestling. I was born in 2003, so like I wasn't even around for any of that.
gotcha, gotcha. So, was there a particular point in your life where you kind of looked at what was happening on TV and said, "You know what? I think I could do this." What was there a particular point that you remember?
Yeah, there was. So I was in college and I had just gone through a breakup. So I was a little upset with how things were going, and I remember I was like late on a college assignment, and I popped open my computer on the countertop while my mom was cooking, and I was looking at the assignment and just how much I had to do, and was like, why am I even doing this? I don't even know what I want to do. I don't really have a passion for any of this. Like, why am I doing it? Why am I wasting money doing this? So I closed the computer and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And that conversation went super well with my mom. But um, I basically ended it with being like, I think I can be a wrestler. Like, I think I can do this. Because I was seriously like, that was the only thing I was passionate about at the time. And my mom basically said, make it happen and I'll support you. And I went and found there were two credible schools in Georgia. There was WWA 4 and Nightmare Academy, and Nightmare Academy was a lot of money. So I ended up going to the 4 and just fell in love with it.
Awesome. And to have that kind of relationship with your mom is really, really cool.
Yeah,
To get that kind of unconditional love and support, man, that's good stuff.
that's awesome. Yeah, my mom is my biggest supporter.
Speed round. Shane McMahon.
Crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah, he has taken some bumps that just send shivers down your spine.
I feel like I can relate with that. I've taken a few crazy ones.
So away from wrestling, what are some of your other hobbies and interests?
Um, I mean, I don't really have time for hobbies and interests mainly because I just work, wrestle, and sleep. Um, Other than hanging out with my family, my girlfriend, I really do like martial arts. Like I'm a black belt in Taekwondo. That's why I kick and do splits and stuff like that. So I still keep up with my training on that. But other than that, it's just like video games and lounging around, just anything relaxing, really.
Got you. Got you. So, I know that in this game, the name of the game is to get to the point where wrestling completely pays your bills and such. But I don't know how close you are to that point. But do you have an air quotes day job? It sounds like you do.
I do have a day job, and it's no air quotes. It's just a day job. I'm in pest control.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
so I drive around and just spray people's houses, and um, I'll have like 20 houses a day get done and go straight to wrestling. Usually get to the 4 around 5 because I live like an hour and a half away. Um, so I drive home, get in my car, drive up to the 4, wrestle there for 4 or 5 hours, come home and go to bed and do it all over again the next day.
Nice. Nice. You've definitely got a schedule and you've definitely got the dedication. So,
It's exhausting, but wrestling is like, even though it's exhausting, that's like my time away, right? Like I enjoy it, so it's not too bad. And if for whatever reason I'm hurt or I'm like too tired to wrestle, I just won't go that day. I'll just go the next day. Uh, Normally my schedule is like I train Monday. Usually I'll skip Tuesday. That's like my day off. Wednesday, and then we have a show Thursday, and then if I'm booked on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, I just do those shows.
gotcha. So, are you originally from the Atlanta area or are you from elsewhere?
I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, and I lived there until I was about 8, and then we moved down here. Um, but yeah, I lived there for a little bit. My family still lives over there, so when I'm wrestling in Memphis, I'll go stay with them sometimes.
Gotcha. So, what is your favorite thing about Atlanta?
Um, Probably I don't know, like just in general, like wrestling.
Just in general.
I like that it's like actually walking around the Atlanta area. There's some colorful people. There's some cool places to go. There's a lot of stuff to do in Atlanta. Wrestling wise, though, the scene is just on fire. That's why I love Atlanta. Um, and anytime we're like in the heart of Atlanta doing a show, we get some wild people in there throwing stuff and just cutting up and having a good time. So it's always fun interacting with them.
Gotcha. You mentioned a girlfriend. What does your girlfriend think about the fact that she's dating a wrestler?
Well, So I met her at the WWA 4. She was a fan. So she's pretty much all about it. Um,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, I think she thinks I'm a lot hotter than I actually am because I'm a wrestler, but that's whatever. Yeah, I remember I was fighting Rico Gonzalez in a match when I was like 6 months in, maybe a year. And I remember before we went out, I was like, dang, that girl's really pretty. And it was her, her sister, and at the time I thought it was her boyfriend, but it was her brother. So I remember I went out there and she actually booed me, even though I was the good guy. We got and I was talking to her and we were cutting up and she kept coming, we kept talking and eventually I wasn't looking for a relationship. She texted me and was like, "Would you like to go on a date?" I was like, "Yeah, kind of." So, here we are.
Awesome. So they say that the best wrestling personas are kind of yourself turned up to 11. So tell me about in ring Grayson and kind of compare and contrast him with everyday you.
Um, I've always been kind of a talker. I just say whatever comes to my mind. It gets me in trouble sometimes, but um I would say Grayson Pierce in ring, like, especially with character I'm portraying now, it's very like, man, I'm just a dick. Like, I'm just an asshole. Like, I'm slow and methodical. I'm angry. I'm a rat. Like, I scurry away. I take a lot of inspiration from Rollins back in like 2015. Um, but I would say, like, me versus Grayson Pierce, like, I'm definitely a lot more. I don't want to say the word calm because I am a lot like in real life, but I would say I'm not nearly as mean.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah.
So tell us about your very first match. What was it like? How did it go? What were your thoughts coming into it? Your thoughts coming out of it? All of that.
Um, it was. It's actually posted on my YouTube, or I think it's posted on WWA 4 or something. But at the time, we were doing Wednesday Night Humidity, which was like our NXT at the time, and there were no fans, but it was live stream, and it was me, a guy named Logan Ragnarok, and a guy named Joshua Ape, and it was a 6-man tag, us three versus Teriyaki and the Northside Heroes, and it was a good match overall. Um, I messed up a ton, and I was beating myself up for it a lot. But they gave me a pep talk and were like, "We expected you to mess up. You did great. All this stuff." And I remember that was the first match. I hit a split-legged moonsault, and I was so proud of myself. But match went well. I definitely came out of it feeling good about myself, but I was like, I can do better.
Speed round. Filthy Tom Lawler.
Um, Brawler.
Yep. So we've heard about the first match. Now tell us about your favorite match that you've been a part of.
Um, I would say I've had a lot of like fun matches. Um, I definitely had. I think one of my favorite matches, just because it was fun, was me, Hendrix, and the Wall versus the Skulk, because we got to wrestle like pretty higher up name. It was Adrian Atlantis, Leon Ruff, and Liam Gray versus us three. So it was fun tussling with them. We had a lot of fun spots. It was like it wasn't a super serious match, so we got cool stuff in, but we also were kind of goofing around. Um, but my favorite singles match probably would either be um, me and Nenji the second time around, or it would be I had a lot of fun yesterday with teriyaki, so I could throw that one in there too.
Nice. So, what is the longest you have ever driven to get to a match?
Uh, driven. We drove 8 hours to Indiana for Naptown Pro Wrestling. It was my first ever trip outside of Georgia, and that was one hell of a trip. It was me, Rico, Blackjack, and A Town Supreme, and we went down there. I didn't even get on the main card. I did a pre-show match with A Town and Blackjack for the A4 Championship, and uh, it was a fun road trip. But dang, it was long. We stayed at Billy Stark's house um, that night, did the show, and we got back at like 4 in the morning.
Whew, that's
Yeah,
long.
it was long, but
But was it worth it?
it definitely worth it because I got to sit and cook up some stuff. I remember that was the trip that I came up with the Young Guns. So, it's got to be worth it if I'm still using that nickname now.
Absolutely. So, what would you say is your biggest in ring pet peeve?
Um, as a as a good guy selling, I think people like the whole point of wrestling is the story, and if you don't sell and get sympathy, right? If we're just doing spots, that's cool, that's whatever. But we need to register moves. We need to sell. We need to gain sympathy. That way, we can cheer the good guy and boo the bad guy. As for the bad guy, same thing. Give the good guy time to breathe. Soak it in. Do some of this, right? Be an asshole. I see too many bad guys. They just are beating the crap out of them for like 5 minutes, and I'm like, this is just whatever. Um, and I've been on both ends. I think that's one of my big pet peeves, really.
Got you. So I know that in terms of setting up a match, there's two main methods. You can either work it out with your opponent in the back, or you can call it in the ring, or, I guess a third option would be kind of a hybrid of both. Do you have a preference yourself? Do you like to figure it all out in the back, or do you like to call it in the ring, or both?
I'm a little bit of half and half. It also depends who I'm wrestling. I'm like a firm believer that you should be able to wrestle any style. So I can wrestle like an AEW wrestler, WWE wrestler. I can wrestle a lucha. I can I can wrestle like old school where I just hit one thing and just jaw jack the crowd. Right, I can do all of it. Maybe some better than others. I'm better when I just call everything in the back, but there's pros and cons to everything because if you call everything in the back, it looks less organic. But if you just half and half it, then there's more room for error. I personally don't like calling it in the ring, like calling nothing. I don't like that because I wrestle a style where if we call nothing, one of us is going to get injured. Right? Like you can call nothing and do a few headlocks and throw me off and this and shoulder tackle. Like that's cool. But I wrestle a style where it's like headlock, I jump over you, roll you up, kick out, big cross body. Like, if we don't call at least a little bit, one of us is going to get hurt.
Right, right. So if I don't know that this has been something you've run into yet, but if you've worked in other countries or cultures, how would you handle language barriers when interacting with either the fans or working with the other talent?
I've never ran into that yet. I've heard that it's not nearly as hard as it looks, mainly because wrestling is a language in itself. Um,
Right,
so if you and me don't speak the same language, I can kind of do the motion and you'll understand what I'm saying. But I haven't personally ran into that. So,
got you. Speed round. Liv Morgan.
uh, underrated.
Yeah. Yeah, I will definitely agree with you there. I think she doesn't get the respect as a worker that she deserves. But hopefully that'll eventually come with time.
Yeah, I remember when she first won the women's championship, everyone was like, "Oh, this is a horrible like pick," and it was her first time winning it. I didn't expect her to be like the best champion out the gate. You
Right.
I think Triple H said this. You don't know, like when you win your first belt, you don't really know what you're doing with it until you win it a second time. Um, so Liv's gotten it a second time, and now she's a heel, and she is just running it. I mean, she's just doing great right now.
Yeah, for sure. So, if you could only be one, would you rather be great in the ring or great on the mic?
Uh, great. I'm starting to figure out that character is what gets you big leagues. But man, I would just hate to be a wrestler if I just sucked in the ring. Um, I mean, yeah, I mean, I would probably rather be better in the ring than on the mic. Uh, I hope to be good at both. I'm working on my mic skills. I'm not the best, but um, in my opinion, the fun stuff is the actual wrestling. Now, it's not the stuff that's going to get you a job per se, right? It may get you a job in AEW, but I mean, look like LA Knight. I think LA Knight is like he's an average wrestler in my opinion. Um,
Yeah.
like super good on the mic. So
Yeah.
that's how I see it. No hate on him. Like he can do cool stuff, but like if he went to AEW, he'd get lost in the shuffle.
Oh, for sure. For sure. But you do have those occasional guys like Osprey who are amazing in the ring and have gotten really good on the mic as well. And if you can get to where you're operating at that level in both aspects, you can virtually write your own ticket.
Well, I mean, I look at Roman Reigns. Like Roman isn't like he can't do everything in the ring. Like being good in the ring doesn't mean you can do a backflip and this and that. That's whatever, right? Um,
Right.
his psychology is really good. His selling is really good. He takes time on everything, but he just shines in his character, his mic work, his actual like presence in the ring. And like I mean, he's one of the few WWE guys. I think he's the only WWE guy who has full control over his character, which like that's not a thing in WWE, right? So
Right.
him to have that, it means something.
For sure. So what has been your most unusual encounter with a fan?
Um, when I first started, uh, there was a match going on. I can't remember what the match was, but there were a bunch of drunk ladies at the fort and grabbing at the wrestlers' ankles, and it almost like tripped one of them. So I went over there and I stepped in and was like, "Hey, move out the way," blah blah blah. Well, one of them like threw a punch at me. Well, um, I was like pretty new, but I all I knew is I was trying to get their attention away from the match. That way they could finish the match safely. They threw a punch. I did this, blocked it, but I took a bump on the floor and they just went over and like wrestling beat me up like it was fine. But I just let them beat me up, right? I just did this and no one actually even really hit me, but they just kind of were doing those fake little stomps and it worked. The match ended and I just walked off. So
Nice.
it was, I had a mission. Yeah, other than that, I haven't really had any like weird people come up to me or anything like that. I just kind of expect all wrestling fans are weird in their own way.
Yeah. So, do you have a preference yourself between working heel or babyface?
Um, I think I think I look like a heel. I think I have the potential to be a really good heel. Uh, I was a baby face for like a year and a half. So I think I'm more comfortable being a face, but I think people look at me and think of a heel. So I'm still working on that heel work now, but I definitely prefer to be a heel because it's the match is at my pace, right? And
Right.
I think I'm smart enough to when I'm calling a match to be like, okay, this guy can keep up with me. This guy can't keep up with me. This guy can keep up with me for a bit, but he'll get tired pretty quick. Right. So I can call it to that degree because there's some guys where I'm like the baby face and they're the heel and they're just calling all this stuff. And I'm like, we're not going to be able to do all this. Right. We're going to get exhausted or something's going to happen or, right. But
Right.
or to be also just because I get to be mean to people.
Yeah. Yeah. From the perspective of a fan, I have always found myself gravitating more to the heels than the baby faces because I've always found the heels to be more compelling characters
Yeah.
because there's usually a reason why they are the way they are. They're not being a dick just to be a dick. There's a reason and there's a backstory.
It's
And
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I definitely agree with you because like Roman isn't just a dick just to be a dick, right? Like he's had people betray him and stuff like that, and I think it's hard to tell that story on the indies. Um, you can do it like promotion to promotion, but sometimes you do have to just come in and be an asshole for no reason. Um,
right.
at the four, I know we're telling a story. I don't think anyone's even keeping up with it, which is fine. It's a training school, but like my whole thing is I didn't want to just hit Ninja with a chair and be like, it was the fans' fault. Like that's overplayed. Like we did a whole story where I won the champion. It's kind of like a reverse Cody Rhodes. Instead of him winning the championship and everyone being like, "Good job," everyone was like, "All right, now I'm coming for your championship," right? So like I won the belt and he just kept challenging me for it. I kept beating him and we had a tag match and eventually he like dove onto me and I was like, okay, that's fine. And then I held him and he super kicked me and I just snapped and hit him with a chair. And ever since then, it's just been Nenji, you're jealous of my success, right? That's what we've been doing at the four. Um, but like Southern Honor, I play a completely different character there than I do action, than I do at the four. They all have similarities, but they're not all completely the same.
Gotcha. Speed round. Jeff Jarrett.
Um, I don't. He's all right. I don't know.
Yeah.
Jeff. He's a character. We'll say that he's a character.
Yeah. Yeah. So, can you share an example of a time where something went completely sideways and you had to completely improvise during a match?
I feel like that's every match, but I'm trying to think of like, mm, no, I mean, I don't really have anything that pops out in mind. Um, because I just feel like there's at least one thing in every match. I'm sure there's been like a big one. I think the biggest one that really isn't that big of a deal. When I was fighting Parker Lee for the DWA championship, I was choking him in the corner and I was doing all this and I turn around and the bottom rope breaks off. And it's not like we had to use the bottom rope for any reason, but I was like still pretty new, so I was like, I don't know what to do. So I picked it up and I like went to hit him with it, and the ref took it away from me, and then I just started beating him up. And um, like later in the match, I hit a lumbar check on him and I'm pinning him, but his feet were completely under the ropes. But the ref just counted it because there was no rope. So
Right.
I think that was probably one of the things that was like out of my control that happened that made the match better. Um, but there's like small things that happen in every match, but I think that's like the big one that comes to mind, really.
Gotcha. So you had mentioned circa 2015 Rollins, but in terms of your in ring work and your promos, who would you say are some of your influences? And it can be wrestlers, it can be pop culture, anything.
Um, I definitely for promos and like character work and stuff. Like I want the demeanor of like Randy Orton 2009, like when he was a psychopath. Just
Hmm.
collected says like pretty horrible things. I would like to say it also depends what kind of heel I am. Like at the four, I'm like Randy Orton, but like at action, I'm like I like to think I'm like asshole Adam Cole when he comes out and he's like,
Oh
Um,
yeah,
but promo wise, like I don't know, I just kind of talk. I definitely love Shawn Michaels. He's one of my inspirations. His promo stuff is kind of outdated, so I don't really use any of that. I should look more into like the way people talk with promos and stuff. It's just hard. It's easier to break down a match than a promo. Um,
right.
so I definitely have like things that I do to help me or like to convey to the audience. But normally when I do a promo, it's either I'm just cocky as hell or I'm like emo, like Raven's Flock. It's one of the two.
Gotcha. So, do you have an all-time favorite match as a fan? A match that you can watch it a million times and it just never gets old, and there's always some new little nugget you can pull from it. Anything like that?
I got a few. I love Taker versus Shawn, WrestleMania 25, the first one. The second one's good, but the first one's really good. Um, I really love RVD versus Eddie Guerrero. That ladder match, that fan came in and pushed him. Big fan of Killshot and Dante Fox and Lucha Underground. That match is just crazy. Um, I love Shawn versus John Cena at WrestleMania. I think it was 23. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm a big fan of like Eddie, Shawn, Guerrero, RVD, people like that. Adam Cole. Oh, I another one, a more new one. I like Adam Cole versus Matt Riddle in NXT when they first went over to I think USA Network.
Oh yeah,
Match is sick. Uh,
yeah,
it's like 15 minutes, but yeah, I usually take from matches like that.
yeah. I'm also a big Cole fan, and he's another one that I feel like has never quite gotten the respect that he deserves.
Yeah, you know, Cole really good on the mic. He's spectacular in the ring. Um, I think Cole needs that story, right? Like they were going to do the whole like he turns heel on MJF. Well, then he got injured, so that brought him back.
Yeah,
And now they're doing the story where it's opposite. And he just needs that big storyline. If they got like Undisputed Era back together in AEW, uh, I feel like that could work. But he needs something more than like a cheap pop, right? Like
right.
he needs like that Roman Reigns story or like something like that to bring him to the next level. And this is just my opinion. I don't know if AEW is going to give it to him. Uh,
Yeah,
I think they're trying, but I think other than like, oh, Adam Cole's doing this, that's cool. Like if he went to WWE, I know why he left. I totally understand why he left. But now Triple H is in control. I think that he would take care of Adam Cole if he came back.
I do too. I do too. I actually feel like at this point, going back to WWE would probably be Cole's best move.
I
But
Another thing for Cole too, like a reason why people, in my opinion, can't get super behind him is like I know I'm not the biggest dude in the world, but like Cole is like really skinny. Like, and that works for him. Like, I'm not saying he needs to be like jacked, but like everyone dogs on him for his appearance. And I agree. Like, if you're gonna be at the top of your game, right? Like, basically in the top 1% of wrestlers, you need to do more with your body.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if there's a weakness in his presentation, it would be that.
I think his slim frame like is part of his like thing, like his look, but he's like just a tad too slim. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I can use the excuse of, well, I don't get paid for this, like I have a 9 to 5, all this stuff, and it's a bad excuse, but at least I don't really have a whole lot of time to do it, and I'm working on it. But like, he gets paid to do that, you know?
Right.
So
Right.
like my big thing with Adam Cole.
Gotcha. So, and this can be present day or past. Who would be a dream opponent for you? Who would Grayson Pierce love to work?
Um, Sean, just because I would like to have that character driven but cool. Um, RVD and me, I feel like it would just be spot after spot after spot. Um, Eddie, of course, just because he's just the greatest. Um, but surprisingly, I would like to have a one-on-one with Fox. I've never had a one-on-one with Fox in front of people. We've messed around and stuff like that, but I would like to have that singles match with him. Um, and then there's like Adam Cole and people like that that would be fun to wrestle. But um, I would say someone more on my level that I'm ready to wrestle, or someone closer to my level. I really want to wrestle like Adam Priest in a singles. Um, I'd like to wrestle. I'm actually wrestling Priest in a tag match in December, but I really want that singles with him. Um, I just fought Teriyaki in a singles again, so that was fun. Uh, but yeah, that's pretty much it. There isn't really anyone where I'm like, oh, I really want to have a match with this guy. Tyler Franks, if you know who that is, he's pretty good. I'd like to wrestle him.
Gotcha. So you're a pretty young guy, so this may not really apply. But what hurts right now?
Everything. It. I'm always told that like the older you get, the more wrestling starts to hurt, which I understand that. Uh, Things don't really hurt in the sense of like I'm injured or anything. I'm just kind of sore, but not sore like, oh, I feel like something's wrong. Just sore because I'm always um or I'm always working or something like that. Like if I have like a day or two off from wrestling and work, I feel like $1,000,000. Um but nothing really hurts too bad. I'm pretty focused on being safe and making things look crazy even though they're not, you know.
Gotcha. Yeah, the art of illusion. Selling, selling, selling.
Yeah.
So, what is the most significant injury that you've suffered either wrestling or training?
The only injury I've suffered is this broken wrist right here. If you can see that scar, I don't know if you can
Oh,
see.
yeah.
Um, I was in a match and we did a spot where a guy named JDR went to brain buster a guy named DJ on top of me. Um, and I won't get into the logistics of it, but he basically did it wrong. Right. And I'm not dogging on him, but he did it wrong and it freaked me out. And I should have just stayed like this and just taken it. But I freaked out, put my hands up, and my wrist snapped back. Uh,
Mm,
had to complete the match, take the pin. It sucked. I didn't even think my wrist was broken. Like it hurt, but I was like, I think I just sprained it. And then the adrenaline started to wear off, and I was like, all right, it's really hurts. And I got a cast put on, and I took, how long was I out? I took 2 weeks off of wrestling, and then came back and started wrestling again, just in the cast. I was told not to. I was told to be out for 3 months, and I was like, I can wrestle safely with the cast on, and they were like, no, you can't. I'm like, watch me. So I the cast is right here. Hold on. It's it's torn to shreds because of me wrestling with it. It's got wires poking out of it. This is broken off. There's plastic. I would just tape this up real good and go out there and wrestle.
Nice,
Yep.
nice. Someday when you're a big name, that'll be worth a lot of money.
Yeah, this. I remember I walked into the doctor's office for them to be like, "Oh, you're good," and they were like, "So you've been wrestling?" I'm like, "No." They're like, "Why does your cast look like this?" I'm like, "Work."
Well, you weren't lying.
I
I
wasn't.
mean,
I like did whatever, but I was fine. I was.
speed round. Alan Angels.
Oh my gosh, I've met him in real life. He's awesome. He's just the nicest guy ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Have did I'm presuming you met him at a show or?
Yeah, I met him at Disruptor Wrestling. He's very knowledgeable. I will say that. He definitely knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, he seems like a good dude, and I think he's somebody that with the right opportunity and the right push could actually really get himself over.
I agree. Alan can do anything in the ring. Uh and he's got good psychology. He's got a good connection with the crowd. Um he just needs to get signed somewhere really, and the right push like you said, and he'll go to the moon.
Absolutely. So, what are your thoughts in general on the current state of the industry?
Um I think wrestling's hottest is at the hottest point it's ever been. I can even say even more than the Attitude Era, in my opinion. I wasn't around for it, but I think it is. I think it's just absolutely wild that we're getting back into like territory days, basically. Because
Hmm.
the only people that I'm aware of who are still wrestling, who were around for the territory days, the Rock and Roll Express, which I have worked one of them before. He was cool. I think it was Ricky Morton. I worked him he was in a Rumble with me one time, but they're the only people like still wrestling today who were like around for that period, which is crazy to think about. Um,
Right.
we got like the Judgment Day going to OTT. We got the Creed brothers going to Bloodsport. Like that's just crazy to me. We got the WWE ID program. Um, we got RVD and AEW, and then popping up on WWE television. Like wrestling, like if you had come to me in 2015 and said this is how it's going to be in a few years, I would say you're crazy. Um, but it's also like the chances of like not only college students getting like into wrestling because we got like Braun Breaker and people like that, indie
Right.
hottest than it's ever been. And it's not just WWE, right? It used to be the only goal was WWE. Well, now there's WWE, AEW, New Japan, Pro Wrestling Noah. Like, there's so many places, AAA, right? Like, there's multiple options. We got the territories coming back. Just wrestling is on fire right now. And I want to say a lot of that is because of Triple H. I think he noticed how closed off the business was, and he's just opening it all back up. Um,
Yep.
and Tony Khan's giving people opportunities left and right. So I'll give him a shout out there too. But um, wrestling's it's just great right now.
It really is, and I've mentioned this on a number of other episodes that I've done, but the irony is not lost on me that the two main guys from DX are now running the company, Hunter and Sean. I mean,
I think
I find that hilarious.
so awesome. And it's always the people, right? Um like my character like at the four is like I'm a dick and I hate everyone and they're, I think they're all like not even worth being in the same ring as me. But like in real life, like I'm the other guy helping Fox train people, right? So like cuz we got like 40 students at the four, right? And
Right.
that's a lot for Fox, right? Especially being an AEW. So like when he's not there, or if he needs to break the class into two, or he needs to demonstrate a move, I'm the guy helping him with that. I'm not a trainer, I'm a student. I'm just the student he uses, right? um
Gotcha.
I hate to say star student, but I don't think I have an ego, but if I can stroke it a little bit, yeah, it would be that. I feel like I've earned that, or that title. Um, and Fox he's like one of my best friends. So
Well, he obviously has a lot of trust and belief in you, and that's got to feel good that you've built that and you've earned that.
yeah, the biggest compliment in wrestling someone can give you is basically, "Hey, I know you," wink, wink. So that means that when your name is brought up somewhere else, they'll bring your name up, right? And they'll be like, "I know him," right? There are a lot of people that I know that if someone walked up to me and be like, "Hey, how do you feel about this guy?" I'd be like, "Who?" Because I don't want them on my name. But Fox, like me and him have built up a trust, and he gives me a lot of extra advice that not all the students get. He gives me tips and stuff like this to get bookings, and that that just helps out so much. And one day I hope I can repay the favor to him. One day I hope that if I'm ever in ROH or something like that, they go, "Hey Fox, do you know this Grayson Pierce kid?" And he goes, "Yeah, I do. He's great."
Yeah, absolutely. So, what is your take on the role that social media is playing as a promotional tool in wrestling?
Um, Social media is like a very big part of wrestling, in my opinion, especially right now. And I tell all the guys at the four that I look at the page and like four pictures. They've been wrestling for like a year. I'm like, nah, dude, you need to post like every day, right? Every 2 days, something. Um, and I know I don't have a lot of followers. Uh, I'm working on it. It's hard, man, because like I think about wrestling before social media. I'm like, how did people get picked up? I like don't understand.
Right.
Like, I feel like one of the big parts of getting picked up by a company is social media. Like one thing I've noticed with the WWE ID program, you have to have a little bit of a following to even get picked up.
Right.
Yeah, like I know Jackson Drake who just got picked up, or yeah, Jackson Drake, the Carolina Reaper. He
Hmm.
5,000 followers, which isn't a lot in the grand scheme of things, but like you can't just have like 200 followers and get picked up just 'cause you're all right,
Right. So, like I've mentioned previously, you're still a pretty young guy, but knowing everything you know at this point, if you could give any advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Um, Wrestling is it can break you down mentally very quickly. It can get you frustrated and get you upset because it's not a giving business. Wrestling doesn't owe us anything. It honestly takes more than gives. It takes away health, it takes away time, it takes away friends, it takes away a lot of stuff. If I could say this to my younger self, or even just a wrestler starting out, um, don't don't be like so hard on yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Come back after matches and mess up one thing and be like pissed. And wrestling's supposed to be fun. Like wrestling isn't supposed this. God, I just hate that match. Like, I'm gonna delete it. Like, no, you're gonna mess up pretty much every single match. I mess up at least once, and I'm not saying don't be hard on yourself. Like, you should be strict on yourself, but don't be like pissed and like I'm the worst wrestler ever. Like, that gets on your mental health. And I noticed that with a lot of new students. They're like, they'll even compare themselves to other people. Like, I had a guy walk up to me the other day and was like, I wish my strikes and my kicks were like yours. I said, well, that's not a fair comparison. I'm a real black belt in Taekwondo. You're not going to have kicks like me 3 days into wrestling. You may never have kicks like me because I know how to throw these kicks for real. So everyone has like a different background. I know people who did sports their whole life and they come into wrestling and it's just super easy. They just get it. And then there's people who've never done a sport in their life and they try and be a wrestler and then they're mad that they're not like doing backflips on day one. I'm like,
Right.
you got to take your own pace, your own time. It may take a little bit longer for some people, but at the end of the day, like, if you want this, you just got to keep going, right? And I'll be there with them the whole way, and because there were people with me the whole way. Um, but yeah, I would just say don't be so hard on yourself, really.
Right. And that's those are really some wise words, because when it comes down to it, we can all be our own worst enemy.
Yeah,
We're all our own biggest critics, and if you do too much of that, it becomes counterproductive. So you've really got to find a balance.
yeah, yeah.
So, do you have any pre-show traditions, rituals, superstitions, any things that you try to do consistently before you walk through the curtain?
Yeah, it's pray. I pray for safety, and I pray for safety, strength, forgiveness, and I pray that I remember everything and that everything goes off without an injury or a hit. And um, I always like make sure to go up to my opponent and be like, be safe out there, shake his hand, anything along those lines.
Gotcha. Speed round. Sandman.
Um, Sloppy. He's,
Yeah.
but I think it ends there, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. He's somebody that, I don't even know if the word wrestler really even applies. I mean,
He's I've heard he's a cool guy. I mean, you kind of have to be when your gimmick is like a beer drinker. Um, but yeah, Sandman's never one of those guys. I'm like, hey guys, let's sit down and watch this match and analyze it, right? You know,
right.
there's a few people like that. Like, I would say the biggest example of like someone who just does crazy shit, but doesn't really, not someone I would like really break down. Like Jeff Hardy, he's sick. Like, I love him, but he's not really like a super psychological in ring worker. He's just like, yeah, I'll just jump on you, throw you in the ring, and hit a swanton.
Yeah, absolutely. So, something that we've done in all of these that's just been kind of fun is we've let the current guest pose a question for the next guest. So, my previous guest was one of your other WWA4 friends, Eddie Hendricks,
Scared. Yeah,
and and he posed this question: if you had to choose between Chris Jericho or Shawn Michaels, who have you stolen more from?
I hate him. Um, you know, dang, that's a pretty good question. Uh, I want to say Sean just because I have his tattoo. Um, but damn, I hate him. But Jericho, man, dude, I just love his like in ring work and his mannerisms and stuff like that. I don't know. I wanna go with it. Used to be Sean, but I almost want to go with Jericho now.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, since this is part of a series, do you have a question you would like to pose to the next guest, and I can go ahead and tell you the next guest is tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern. I've got from Birmingham, Alabama, but I know he's another A4 guy. Is the Big Bad Wolf?
Wolf. Hmm.
And it doesn't have to be specific to him. It can just be a question you would like to pose. But if
Um.
you've got something specific to him, go ahead.
All right. I would say, because I know he was trained at Spartan Wrestling, I would say for Big Bad Wolf, what has he learned more from the WBA 4 or Spartan Wrestling? That's what.
Oh, that's a good question. So we're getting close to the end of things now. So do you have any upcoming shows or anything at all that you'd like to give some hype to?
I got Action Wrestling Bangers Only 5 in December. I got my calendar right here. Hold on, let's see when it is. That is December the 13th. I have Southern Honor 69 against Jay Lucas, another WWA 4 guy, coming up soon. I will be at New South Wrestling on the 21st in their Rumble. I will also be doing the Dijak seminar. So really, that's it.
Nice. Well, I want to definitely thank you for your time, Grayson. I love doing these, and just the chance to nerd out about wrestling with like-minded people is just very cool. And so, like I said, definitely thank you for being a part of this. You can consider yourself to be part of the Throwdown family now, and you've got a standing invitation to come back, anytime you would like. Actually, something that I'm going to be doing in the new year. These will actually be pre-recorded shows, as I'm looking to actually do what I'm calling an inside the match show, where basically we would watch one of your matches together and let you kind of break down, what was going on during different parts of the match, what your thoughts were, that kind of thing. So if that would be something you'd be interested in doing, we can definitely talk later about that.
Yeah.
But um, but anyway, like I said, tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern, I've got episode 56 with the Big Bad Wolf from Birmingham. And then on Tuesday, the 3rd at 7 p.m., I've got episode 57, and I've actually got Neji Ichiban.
Hey,
So
yeah.
So, and there's a bunch more that I've got coming up. So definitely keep an eye on my socials. And something I'm going to throw up on the screen real quick is I've got a small merch store, and that QR code will take you right to it. I've got mugs, hats, shirts, etc. But anyway, like I said, Grayson, thank you. And I'll be in touch over the next day or so as I get stuff edited and reposted. But this has really been a pleasure. And for those of you that have been watching this live, thank you. For those of you that'll be seeing this on replays, thank you for that. And if you like what we've got going here, spread the word. I'm taking a look here at the chat. Really not. There's a lot of people in the chat, but not really a lot of comments. But anyway, everybody have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow night at 7, and keep throwing down.